familiar faces, clients, people who have taken my courses, and many faces that I don't recognize. So thank you all for coming today. I'm Joy McCarthy, the joy behind Joy is Health. And I'm really excited to be presenting to you today to talk about how to go from being junk food, maybe, I'm not assuming anyone is eating gluten-free junk food, but to go from eating gluten-free junk food to understanding how to be a gluten-free goddess, or I should say there are lots of men here too, so a gluten-free god as well. So what I'm finding in my own practice as a nutritionist, when I look at people's food journals and they have decided either because they have to if they have celiac disease or if they have major gluten intolerance, they've decided that they are going to now eat gluten-free. One of the most common things I see in people's food journals is that they are then starting to eat a lot of gluten-free junk food. So I just want to say today that, if you do decide to go gluten-free, or you have to, that of course is not a one-way ticket to eating junk foods. And I know, there's some really delicious gluten-free ice cream sandwiches. I often pass to them when I'm in the grocery store as well. But just really save those for once in a while indulgences. I mean, there's nothing wrong with once in a while having something, that has sugar or that may not be the most health-promoting thing. You gotta have your indulgences too. We all have them, but you just don't want it to be sort of an everyday basis thing. And I'll talk more about that as well. So I'd like to get a sense in the audience here, who is actually gluten-free? You don't have to tell me if it's because you have celiac disease. Okay, so there are, I'd say, about half people here eating gluten-free. So I will tell you a little background of my story and my very glutinous ways of the past. And back years ago, I used to be very glutinous, and I would have my bran buds for breakfast with my blueberries. I would have my skim milk, and I thought I was all healthy. This is before I became a nutritionist. So every morning I have the same thing. Have that cereal. Then for lunch I would have maybe a whole wheat wrap with turkey, and I always made sure that I went to the grocery store and got the low-fat turkey. By the way, I'm not saying these things are necessarily healthy. And then for dinner, I would often have things like pasta. And if I wasn't having pasta, I would have a bun. I always had to have a dinner bun with my meal. Does this sound familiar? Does anyone currently eat this way now? Maybe you're a little bit shy to say, but that's what I was doing for many, many years. That's basically how I grew up. And then every Sunday, we would always have dessert. We would have both of my grandmothers over for dinner, and it was so much fun. Sunday nights were always a family night, and we would always have dessert. So we'd have things like apple pie and many, many delicious things. And for so many years, I was chronically bloated. I honestly looked like Humpty Dumpty. I had these skinny arms and skinny legs, and I was always bloated. I just had this big sort of belly always there, and I was always uncomfortable. After I ate my dinner, I'd always have to undo the top button of my jeans to let my stomach out because I was feeling so bloated. And back then I really didn't correlate, maybe it's because I'm eating way too many bread products, maybe I have too much gluten and it's causing inflammation in my body, and it's really disrupting my digestive system. So I decided that I would do a little experiment. I started to do research, but back then it really wasn't, this was like 15 years ago or more. It really wasn't like common knowledge. Like I went to the doctor, and I remember one day in particular, I went to the doctor and I was like, I have been bloated, I feel like for like 5 years. What is going on? And he did an x-ray of my abdomen, and he's like, you are basically full of crap, Joy. You are so constipated, and it's because nothing was moving through my system because was a food sensitivity for me. So I decided, but my doctor didn't advise me that's what was going on. He just basically told me, sorry to be gross if anyone's grossed out by that, but he basically just told me that I was full of crap, and he started laughing. But he didn't really know why, and neither did I, other than I was so frustrated. So I decided that I would do a little experiment, and I would, stop eating my bran buds at breakfast, at my bran buds with my blueberries and my skim milk. I changed that up. And I really took a break from all of the wheat products that I was eating. And so this was my little 2-week experiment, and within just a few days, I could not believe the difference in my stomach, how it deflated. It was incredible. I had felt like I lost 10 pounds. And by the way, you can be full of 7 to 25 pounds of impacted fecal matter in your gut. So if you're constantly eating foods that you're sensitive to, this can really back things up, and this can really kind of paralyze your gut. So anyhow, I was starting to feel really good, and I'm like, oh, maybe there's something to this, new way, this new, more sort of joyous way of eating. And so then this led to a few years where I hardly had any gluten. Now, I did not have celiac disease. I had like every test known to man. I don't have celiac. But nowadays, I do eat gluten, but I choose, because I don't have to avoid it, because I don't have any specific medical issues. But if I was to go, weeks on end and every single day be eating gluten, I would definitely start to get flare-ups again. Because by the way, not only did I have a bloated belly, but I constantly had eczema on my knuckles that would crack and bleed, which can be a very common sign of a food sensitivity. My heels were always cracking, so it was such an amazing transition, getting that out of my diet and seeing like how my body changed. So nowadays, like I said, I do eat gluten once in a while, but mostly what I eat is for sure always organic, non-GMO. If I'm going to have toast, because I love to have toast at breakfast, I'll either have gluten-free toast or I'll have sprouted whole wheat. If you have celiac disease or severe gluten sensitivity, you cannot even eat the sprouted wheat. But when wheat is sprouted, it makes it more digestible. And this is a great transition food. Like if you're currently eating a lot of breads and cereals and you have a lot of gluten in your diet already, having more sprouted wheat products is a good transition food. So, when clients come to me and they think that maybe they have gluten sensitivity, but they are not ready to go totally gluten-free, then there's definitely foods like pastas and breads that you can get where the wheat is sprouted, and then therefore the gluten is far more digestible, and they don't have as many digestive problems. Has anyone experienced that from making sort of a slow transition, how it's impacted them positively? Yep, a few people. I hear this every single day with my clients. My clients tell me when I have them transition off what a difference it makes. And in January of this year, I ran my first online program, the Joyous 10-Day Detox, and what was the common theme that people said to me? Was that they felt like they lost like 10 pounds. And I thought it was, it was so great to hear that. I remember one woman in particular emailed me and she's like, Joy, all of these years, I thought that I just had a really fat belly and I was just bloated. Eating too much gluten, too much dairy, too much soy, too much corn, too many food allergies really negatively impacts your digestive system and your whole body, because your digestive system is the root of health and is also the root of disease. So it's really, really important to make sure you have a clean digestive system. And I'm actually going to make a smoothie to show you how delicious you can make healthy food taste. Does anyone here think that healthy food, maybe no one will admit it, but I hear this lots of times from my clients. They tell me that healthy food just doesn't taste good. It's people often assume that as a nutritionist, all I eat is like rabbit food, and all I eat is like leaves of spinach. That can be further from the truth. If anyone follows me on Instagram, you know that I love food. I eat all kinds of food. I just make sure that what I eat is as nutrient dense as possible. And as nourishing as possible. And you will be amazed if you're right now eating more sort of the standard American diet and eating, some processed foods. You will notice such a huge transition when you start to introduce more whole, more nourishing foods to your diet. You'll be amazed at how much more you taste, how your taste buds just like come alive. This was one thing I found very fascinating. Back years ago when I had all my digestive issues, and I really didn't taste food. And then when I started eating more nourishing foods and my digestive system improved, therefore I was better absorbing my nutrients from food. Things like zinc. Zinc is what gives you, zinc helps you to taste. So I found it really interesting for myself how I started to actually taste food more. And I was like, yeah, well, healthy food really does taste delicious. I can actually taste it now. Has anyone experienced that for themselves? That they find they can taste food more? I hear this all the time from my clients. They're like, wow, I can't believe how much better food does taste. So, of course, I'm going to talk about gluten, more about gluten. I just want to make sure I'm kind of, I don't have a lot of time. Normally I could stand here and talk to you guys for like 2 hours. So I just want to make sure I get across the key points that you came here to learn. So one of the most common mistakes when you're transitioning to gluten-free is that the most common mistakes I see my clients make is they start eating gluten-free junk food. So what to look for when you go grocery shopping when you are eating gluten-free is you don't want to see the number one ingredient being what? Any guesses as a nutritionist? Sugar, yes. So sugar is the number one food additive. Does anyone know how many pounds of sugar per year the average North American eats? Any ideas? Any guesses? 10 pounds? Any other guesses? 60 pounds? 50 pounds? No. 150 pounds per year is the average amount that a North American consumes of sugar. But guess what? This is not sweet berries and sour keys. This is hidden sugars that people are consuming. So what you want to be careful of, even if you're not gluten-free, this is just advice as a nutritionist to be really healthy, is to read your food labels because sugar is found in so many foods that you might not even think about. Your gluten-free tamari sauce, soy sauce, any kind of sauce, pasta sauces, even if it's in a good, it's in a glass bottle, so you don't have any BPA, you're buying your tomato sauce in a glass bottle, oftentimes the first ingredient is sugar. So you want to make sure that you read your labels, but food manufacturers are actually allowed to break down the sugar molecule. So this makes it very confusing for us, meaning they're allowed to list sugar on the labels like glucose, sucrose, dextrose, but if they added all of those oses together, then sugar would be the number one ingredient. So I used to be like a total sugar addict. I'd say that's the most common thing I see with my clients, but a lot of times people don't even know that they're addicted to sugar. It's just all the processed foods that they're eating. The other another big culprit, whether it's gluten-free or not, is cereals and cereal bars, a lot of energy bars, even things like protein powder, not this one, but a lot of powders that people use in their shakes. I won't say the name, but there's one really popular cereal company, and one serving of their cereal, which is quite tasty, but it's because it's full of sugar, is like 22 grams of sugar. That's way, way too much. And does anyone know what sugar converts to in the body in excess? Any ideas? Fat. Sugar is what makes us fat, essentially. So be really careful of that. Whether it's gluten-free ice cream sandwiches or cookies, whatever it is, make the indulgences count when you want to have them, and just be careful of that, because sugar lowers your immune system. So just 4 teaspoons of sugar can lower your immune system for hours, and like I said, the average North American is consuming 150 pounds per year. So what happens is it literally lowers your body's infection-fighting cells, your white blood cells. When you consume, say you have fruit juice, I see a lot of on people's food journals, clients that come to, they'll be like, Joy, you'll be so proud of me. I'm buying this smoothie from the grocery store, and it's fruit. It's all like strawberries and bananas, and I can't remember what the name of the brand is, but it's all sugar. And the other thing is that it really increases inflammation. We know that inflammation is a major, it leads to heart disease essentially, and from a beauty perspective as well, inflammation affects things, increases things like acne, eczema as well. So, from a beauty perspective, it's a good thing to really cut back on the sugars. So, read your labels, be a savvy consumer, and if you eat less processed foods, you'll get less sugars in general. I really find, when clients come to me and they say I'm totally addicted to sugar, and I start, putting more good things in their diet, like more alkaline foods, so more green vegetables, then you really start to notice those cravings go away. The other thing is alcohol is really just a craving for sugar in disguise. A lot of dairy products, lactose is a milk sugar. I think that a lot of people who are very addicted to dairy products, it's really actually just sugar. So eat more alkaline foods. So for example, the smoothie that I'm going to make, checking my time here, the smoothie that I'm going to make is extremely alkaline. It's totally gluten-free. And even though I'm not gluten-free, when I look at, when I decide to do a food journal every once in a while, because I like to check in with myself, I'm amazed. I can go 2 weeks and not have any gluten whatsoever, and I don't miss it one bit. Has anyone recently transitioned to gluten-free and find that they're, yeah, okay, so a few people. Do you guys find that you're missing out on bread or pasta? Okay, good. Pasta. Okay, so there are lots of good options I should mention before the half hour is over. Okay, so grocery stores are amazing nowadays. You don't have to go to a health food store. So for some of you, I know this is a bit of a repeat if you're already eating gluten-free, but there are so many options. So going gluten-free doesn't mean that you can't ever eat bread anymore. It doesn't mean, that you can't have pasta. I remember when I was a teen, actually, a good friend of mine, his dad had celiac disease, and this was like back in the late 80s, I guess, early 90s. And I remember the bread he used to eat was disgusting. It was like cement. And he's like, yeah, that's my dad's bread. You don't want to go near that stuff. It's like hard as a rock. But nowadays it's so amazing, the gluten-free breads and cereals that are available to us. But look for truly whole foods. Yeah?
Good question with the pasta. When it comes to gluten-free, what do you recommend? Because you have a lot of rice and corn pasta.
Yeah, so that's what I was just going to say. I personally... corn pasta, I never ever buy. I don't, because corn is like such a processed food.
Yes.
It's in pretty much everything.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the movie King Corn, you should go on YouTube and watch it. It will like blow your mind. You'll think that corn is the root of all evil. So I don't recommend when you go gluten-free that you then start, because that's a common problem I see, is that people then start eating tons of corn products. So things like buckwheat, millet, quinoa, chia, amaranth, you'll see breads made with these kinds of ingredients. These are truly whole foods. So when you make the transition, you don't want to just be eating tons of white rice products and corn products. You want to remember to eat the whole food.
Yeah. It's hard to find pastas that are made with like millet and amaranth and like, do you know?
Yeah, well also brown rice pasta is, that's my favorite pastas, gluten-free, are brown rice pasta and quinoa pasta. And you can go into Loblaws, Metro, any grocery store, go to the health food section, and you will find tons of these kinds of pastas. And they're really, really tasty. I can't think of the brands off the top of my head, but I just buy them all the time, and lots of times at Loblaws they're on sale. You can get like 2 big bags for like $8 or something. So it's really important though, because when you do transition to gluten-free, and you are eating, gluten-free pastas and breads, you want to make sure that you do have the whole food. You have the whole, so making sure that it's brown rice, making sure it's millet, because when you're eating, say, white rice products, that is like nutrient-dead food. Essentially, when a grain, like let's take the example of rice, when brown rice is made into white rice, all of the essential fatty acids are stripped away, all of the B vitamins are stripped, selenium, which is a very important anti-cancer mineral, is stripped away. It's also important for skin health. So when a food is refined, it has far less nutrition. So you really, and that it's in itself, when you go gluten-free and then you start eating all these white rice products, that in itself can actually promote more cravings. It can make you crave sugars even more, because guess what? Your blood sugar is doing this all day. Your blood sugar is doing a yo-yo. So when it goes really high, insulin secretes. Most times it over-secretes, it becomes too low. Then you feel moody, irritable, tired. You crave more sugars again. So then it just becomes this vicious cycle. However, there's nothing wrong with, making a big batch on a Sunday night, making a large batch of quinoa, keeping it in your fridge, and using that as your cereal. Whether you are a gluten-free enthusiast or you have celiac disease or not, eating quinoa is a complete protein. It has B vitamins, it has zinc, magnesium, you name it. And what you can do, quinoa has like, as most of you know, has like no flavor basically. It takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with. So what I often do is I'll make my batch of quinoa or millet or amaranth or even brown rice. I'll keep it in my fridge for the week. And for breakfast, I'll spoon out, like 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of this grain, this whole grain that's gluten-free, into my cereal bowl. I'll add some almond milk or coconut milk. I'll add some pumpkin seeds, some fruits, some cinnamon, some maple syrup, and I make my own truly whole grain, no gluten cereal that is full of deliciousness. I'll often put chia seeds as well, because they're a complete protein and they're a good source of omega-3 fats, which are so important for your eyes, for your brain health, for your skin. So as you can see, it's so easy. Oftentimes when I tell people this, they're like, oh, that sounds so difficult. It's so easy just to pop open the lid of a boxed cereal. By the way, I'm very anti-boxed cereals, but once in a while I realize for convenience. But it's so easy, to literally, if you already have like your quinoa made, why not just throw like 5 ingredients and you have such a delicious food to eat? The other thing is, if you do have celiac disease or you are severely gluten intolerant and this is new to you, you have to be really, really careful of hidden gluten. So what I would suggest you do, I don't have a handout of this, but I have a list. You can come and look at it afterwards. And what I encourage you to do, you can just Google it. It's so easy to find nowadays. But there's a lot of foods that have hidden sources of gluten. Just like I said, a lot of foods have hidden sources of sugar. Remember I said the sauces, different cereal products. So the same thing goes with gluten, unfortunately, as well. It can be hidden in a lot of foods. I mean, beer, everyone loves beer, but beer has gluten. So if you are truly gluten-free and you can't eat gluten, then you need to consider things like beer, different sauces, broths, soup bases, a lot of spices. If you like to buy like blended spices, different powders, curry powders, you have to be very careful of those because a lot of them have flour. And if you do have celiac disease or severe gluten intolerance, then that can really cause a problem. Now, if you're just a gluten-free enthusiast and this is stressing you out, you don't have to go to these great lengths to make sure every packaged food you eat doesn't contain something that has gluten in it, because you're not going to experience a horrible health symptom from it. Also, a couple other things I want to mention are things like flavored coffees and teas. Even those kinds of things can be hidden sources of gluten as well. Salad dressings, oh, this is a big one, deli meats, sausages, cured meats, hot dogs often have wheat gluten in them. Yeah?
I oftentimes see on labels natural flavors.
That's a great point. So natural flavors can be a source of gluten as well. A lot of flavoring can be made from barley, actually. So yeah, natural and artificial flavoring. And the government allows food manufacturers to just list stuff like natural and artificial flavoring. So if you have celiac disease or you have severe gluten intolerance, you actually need to call those food manufacturers and find out what their artificial or natural flavoring is made up of. I'm really glad that you brought that up, actually, because that's a great point. And this is a big one, is all the a lot of like vegan fake meats, like soy burgers and those kinds of hot dogs, the faux meats. A lot of those have wheat gluten as well, so be careful of that. Vegetable starch, seasonings, I talked about a bit already. Does that give you guys some ideas of things to be careful of? Basically, it's packaged foods. You know what? If you go to the grocery store, actually the next time you go to the grocery store, what I challenge you all to do is to don't put anything in your grocery cart that comes in a package. No plastic, no cardboard. Everything in your grocery cart should be like you can see the whole food right there. And you'll find that you eat so much more nutrient-dense food that way. Like buy foods that don't have shiny packages and it doesn't have like a big flash that says low-fat this or trans fat free or cholesterol free or high in fiber. Don't buy the foods with all these healthy claims. Go to the produce section where you have apples and kale and all these kinds of foods that don't have flashy signs on them. You don't see a sign on the apples that say, I'm really good for cardiovascular disease. Guess what? I could get rid of your child's asthma. Buy the foods that don't have the packages. And the next time you go grocery shopping, if you're already eating pretty healthy, if you're kind of like a health nut, you shop at the Big Carrots, and you're here today stocking up on all your awesome products. By the way, there's some amazing products out there. Try to buy less packaged food if you are eating really healthy, and you'll be amazed at how simple and delicious real food is. So I'm going to make a quick smoothie just to show you some. This is actually a recipe from my book, Joyous Health, Eat and Live Well Without Dieting. My book actually comes out in January. It has over 150 tips and recipes. And most of them are gluten-free. I'd say at least 95% of my recipes are gluten-free. And I actually didn't intentionally do that. When I was putting my recipes together, I put recipes that I love to eat on a daily basis, foods that I love, that make me feel really good, and that I know a lot of other people will like. And actually, when I got to the end of writing my cookbook, I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. Most of my recipes are gluten-free. A lot of them are vegan. I am not a vegan, but a lot of my recipes are vegetarian or vegan because I eat, a lot of plant-based foods, and that makes me feel fabulous. So if you didn't get a handout today, the smoothie that I'm making is on that handout there. That's also in my book. It's my metabolism boosting smoothie. There are some other things that I would suggest that you can have to boost your metabolism. And also, by the way, I want to mention that if you do have celiac disease or severe gluten intolerance, it's not just the food you need to worry about. You also need to worry about what products you put on your skin. What goes on you gets in you. In fact, it's almost a quicker route to your bloodstream than actually eating it. So you want to look at what your products are actually made of. And if you're not sure, because unfortunately in Canada, the cosmetics industry is not regulated the same way that the food industry is, and I would even argue that the food industry is barely regulated, then you want to make sure that you know who's making that product, and you call the manufacturer and you find out if there's gluten in their products. So today for the show, I actually have launched my own beauty care line, and this is also weird to like stand up here and talk about your own products. I'm like the worst salesman, but anyhow, come by my booth and try my body butter. It's made of mango butter, cacao butter, coconut oil. Anyways, all my products are mostly organic, all natural. They don't contain gluten. And on the handout that you all have, it's more about what's not in your products. When you're thinking about what products to slather on your skin, what to brush your teeth with, I have toothpaste, it's more about what's not in it. So really read all the ingredients there. That's a list of the dirty dozen, and I always make sure, that was one of the things that I transitioned as a nutritionist a little bit later in life, was actually all my beauty care products. And wow, what a difference that it made, because I had a lot of hormonal problems. Years ago, I basically had the hormones of like a prepubertal girl for like 3.5 years. When I was in my 20s, I had massive hormone problems. And so one of the things that I changed was all the products that I use on my skin. Because a lot of the chemicals in beauty products, things like parabens, phthalates, things that give products fragrance, actually act like estrogens in your body. They literally attach to your estrogen receptors, these evil little things, and they like turn your estrogen on. So as a guy, you don't want this. Whatever your aftershave is or your lotion is, like use clean products. Because unfortunately in Canada, the cosmetics industry is not looking out for your best interests. Hate to tell you that. So that's why you got to know what you're putting on your body. So do I have time to make this quickly? I'll just show you. I mean, I'm sure, does anyone here eat smoothies? By the way, I like my bananas right in case you're, okay, good. So I wanted to keep this particular smoothie like pretty basic. So, if you saw my Instagram feed or some of my recipes, you know that I go a little bit more wild with my smoothies, but I want to, make sure that everyone knows what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm just going to put in 1 banana because the protein powder I'm using is sweetened with a little bit of stevia. Has anyone tried this one before? This is my favorite protein powder. I use this always with my smoothies because it's plant-based. It contains 5 different plant-based proteins, and it contains 26.9 grams of protein per serving, which is fantastic. So this is something I would have at breakfast. So protein at breakfast stimulates your metabolism, balances your blood sugar. If you have my smoothie tomorrow for breakfast, you're going to feel very joyous all day. I promise you, you will feel really good. This also has digestive enzymes in it, so it helps you to actually digest the proteins that you're eating. It doesn't have soy. It's completely gluten-free as well. By the way, that's another reason that I'm using it. So but this is the one I use.
What's it called? I can't see.
Vegan Proteins Plus.
Vegan Proteins.
Yep. The other thing I'm going to put in here, please visit my booth if you haven't already and get yourself a packet of the Whole Body Greens Plus Nutrition. Does anyone use Greens Plus? No? Okay. Okay, so this is a new product they just came out with, and I love Genuine Health. They're awesome because they do so much research, they put so much behind their products. And in terms of, they have scientists, they have naturopathic doctors, and they decide exactly what ingredients they're going to put in based on research, but not only a sprinkling of this and a sprinkling of that is what I see with a lot of supplements out there, but their actual ingredients are based on, their dosage amounts are also based on science. So it's not just a little of this or a little of that, the actual dosage amount is well researched. So this is 70% fermented ingredients. Okay, fermented vegetables, and these are like the trendiest foods right now. Maybe in my little nutrition bubble, everyone's talking about fermented foods, but if you're not in my nutrition bubble, then this is kimchi, which is a Korean. This is fermented super greens powder. It has spirulina, so super energizing. Anyway, so put a bit of that in. I also always like to put in some fresh veggies. And so what I want to say about this as well, if you go to my booth, then you can get a free sample of this. It's gluten-free, of course. Soy-free, sugar-free. Okay, so I have banana, I have my protein powder, I have my super greens powder. If I was doing this at home by myself, I would do like this much spinach. And by the way, mix up your greens. This is another, I'll finish up in like 1 minute. This is another mistake that I see people make. They say, Joy, I'm eating so healthy. I have my spinach salad for lunch every day and I've been doing this for the last 25 years. Look at me. So you don't want to have the same leafy greens day after day. You want to make sure you have variety. So when you're at the grocery store next time and you're making sure you don't buy packaged foods, if you always buy spinach, then try some kale, or try some, romaine, or some green leafy, or some purple leafy lettuce, bok choy. Like, try different types of leafy greens. If you're new to things like kale, check out my website, because I have hundreds of recipes. And if you find that kale tastes like tree bark, then you just need to give it a little love. Kale likes to be massaged. And you add some oil to it and some sea salt, massage your kale, not for your smoothie, obviously. But kale likes to be massaged, and it becomes very workable. Oh, I'm also going to put in this superfood, which is some acai, so this is very metabolism boosting. This stuff is not cheap. However, this bag is maybe, I don't know, $25, but I'm not using very much of it. I don't use it every single day, just a little bit. I have my frozen organic raspberries. This time of year, it's like next to impossible. Well, I personally wouldn't buy fresh organic raspberries this time of year because they're going to be shipped from the other side of the world. I always buy frozen this time of year because I like to always buy organic. And then I'll put in some coconut milk, which I made myself. Coconut milk is the easiest thing to make. It will blow your mind. As soon as you start making your own almond milk and coconut milk, I promise you, you will like never go back. And what else do I want to put? Some chia, and then I'm going to finish up. And then you guys are welcome to go to my booth and get the greens powder. We'll put in a little bit of chia, some ground chia. I normally use sprouted. I actually ran out of the sprouted. So with chia, there's a great brand called Organic Traditions, and I really like their sprouted chia and flax. Much more digestible, higher in protein. And now let's hope this bad boy works. So, as I mentioned, I really like this Blendtec. It's awesome. It's so light. Yeah?
A question about the chia. If you just soak it overnight in water, is that the same as getting the sprouted version? Like if you
not quite the same, but yes, you can soak it. It becomes very gelatinous.
But if you were just to put it in a smoothie, would it work?
Yeah, it's fine, just like that. Yeah, so chia, your gut, your stomach acids break down chia. Flax seeds, you have to grind it because your gut doesn't break it down and release the good fats.
So say compared to sprouting, like how much is it okay to just soak it?
Yeah, you can do either. I would say it's not the same. Sprouted is like the top, it's the best thing to have. Most digestible, higher in B vitamins, higher in protein. But at the end of the day, if you're having your chia and it's round or it's whole, at least you're having your chia kind of thing. But if you've been eating chia for years and you want to take it to the next level, then, get sprouted. So just put this up. Super easy. Okay, so that's all you have to do. Now that's a large serving. I actually need to add, I've been drinking from that, so I wanted that. I need to add a little bit of water if anyone wants to actually taste it. But I would have that as a breakfast, and that's a lot though. That's probably about breakfast and a snack. So if you have shakes or smoothies for breakfast and you're hungry like an hour later, you're just not eating enough. Or you don't have enough good fat and protein in it. So coconut milk. By the way, when you have coconut milk, buy full fat if you're gonna buy it, or make it yourself by using the actual coconut flakes, and you just soak it. And one cup of coconut flakes and 4 cups of water yields 4 cups of coconut milk. So you literally just throw it all in your blender, blend, strain. You have coconut milk. So easy. But you want those good fats. Because those good fats, your body loves to use medium chain triglycerides as a source of energy. They go directly through the portal vein into the liver, and your liver utilizes those fats in coconut oil. Coconut oil is amazing for you. They're doing so much great research, but this is coconut milk, which contains it contains the good fats as well. And of course, the protein powder. So 2 essentials, I'm almost done. Two essentials in your smoothies. Always make sure your protein, please. Not just like your fruits and your milk, but always make sure you have your protein and have a fat source as well. Now I'll take any questions, and then we have to get out of here in 10 minutes. Any questions? But I'll go to my booth. I'll be at my booth and you can come and talk to me all day. Yep.
I just wondered about that protein powder. Does it have the stevia aftertaste?
It doesn't. Now, I will tell you, of all of the protein powders, this one is kind of middle of the road in terms of the sugariness of it. So if you're used to using, say, a Sun Warrior brown rice protein with no flavor, transitioning to this, you probably won't use a banana.
Okay.
You don't need to really add anything to sweeten it because it's already quite sweet. But I love using this for baking as well, like making pancakes, making muffins, doing raw cookies. I have tons of recipes on my website and in my book. Super easy. And it's cheap. I sell this in my office for like $21. It's very inexpensive and this will last you quite some time. Any other questions? No questions? Don't be shy. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. And if you do have any questions and you just don't want to ask it in front of everybody, you can come on up and talk to me or come over to my booth and make sure that you get yourself